Hey, what's up? This is Marquis Munson with Todd, 1029, 100.9, the home of Alabama sports, and it's week 8 of the SEC predictions. I'm Marquis Munson here with James Hardy here. What's up, James?
Doing well. I tell you, the leaves starting to change around the South when it comes to Southeastern Conference football. The weather just starting to turn a little bit cooler here in the state of Alabama, so you know that it's the heart of college football season.
And you know by looking at this jacket here that it's definitely cold out there, and it's football weather. But not a lot of SEC games this week. Unfortunately, not a lot of big SEC games this week. So I'm going to start it off with the first game on the schedule, and that's Idaho going up against the Missouri Tigers. Now, if Missouri loses this one, I'm just going to kick them out of the SEC. It's just no way this team could possibly lose to an Idaho team at home. But we've seen other things happen with Troy beating LSU. So Idaho going up against Missouri, the first game of the SEC schedule of Week 8. What do you got, James?
This is a game the Tigers should at least be able to take one from the Vandals. A little factoid for you for this week as far as Idaho's nickname for their football team. But, I mean, you got to give it to Missouri.
Yeah, I got to give it up to Missouri, too. I mean, hopefully it doesn't take them 70-plus points to actually beat an Idaho team like it did when they played Missouri State early on in the season. So hopefully they can get the job done. They have been playing well for the last couple weeks. Even though they lost to Georgia, they put a couple points on them. They also had a neck-and-neck game against Kentucky the previous week. So Missouri's starting to catch their stride a little bit to avoid being the worst team in the SEC. So I'm going to go with the Missouri Tigers in this one. Now we have the Kentucky Wildcats. Speaking of the Kentucky Wildcats, they're going up to Starkville, Mississippi to play the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State has been struggling so far this season. We thought they were going to be one of these teams that could be a sleeper team in the SEC. I've even heard a potential upset against Alabama early on in the season, but those guys then kind of got quiet a little bit, and now we're starting to see what this Mississippi State Bulldogs team has to offer, but yet we haven't seen what this Kentucky team has to offer just yet.
And you know, I think you're right on as far as the Kentucky commentary, as far as kind of going under the radar. I mean, let's face it, Kentucky's just a few plays away from being undefeated. In that 1-point loss to Florida that they had a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter. Mississippi State had a nice win at home against BYU last week. But I tell you, this is an opportunity for Kentucky to get a big road win, kind of one of those crossroads points of the season for Kentucky. A winnable game for them in Starkville, and there's still a possibility if Kentucky wins out that they could represent the SEC East in Atlanta. And I tell you, I'm picking Kentucky to go on the road and get a big victory.
I'm actually going with Kentucky as well. Mississippi State, even though Nick Fitzpatrick has been having a good season, not going to deny he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC, but I just think with the defense of Mark Stoops that he has at Kentucky, and also the way he's performing on offense as well, I'm going to go with Mark Stoops getting the victory in Starkville. Speaking of Mississippi, another team traveling to Mississippi this weekend is the LSU Tigers. Now, ever since their loss against Troy at homecoming, at home, I just like to put an emphasis on that. Ever since then, they've been winning games, including beating Auburn last week in a tough game as well. Now this LSU Tigers team finally starting to catch their stride a little bit.
Exactly, and LSU getting 2 much-needed victories, one a couple weeks ago at Florida, and then that come-from-behind thriller at home against Auburn. And I look for Darius Guice to be a difference maker in that running game as a whole for LSU, going on the road against a solid offensive squad with Shea Patterson, a quarterback for Ole Miss. But where the difference for me is that Ole Miss defense, a porous defense that we all saw as far as how they performed in Tuscaloosa, giving up almost 70 points to the Crimson Tide, even gave up 35 at home to Vanderbilt last week. For that reason, I like LSU to continue the winning ways.
Yeah, if LSU is able to contain Shea Patterson, similar to what they did to Jarrett Stidham last week, I think that LSU is going to come out with this victory. This Ole Miss defensive struggle this season. It's not the same Land Sharks defense that we've seen from previous years. They don't have the secondary, and they, in order to stop the pass, if LSU does decide to pass. But a big game from Darius Guice, considering the fact that this defensive line has been struggling. So I'm going to go with the LSU Tigers in this one. And the final game outside of the Tennessee-Alabama game, which you can check out our staff predictions on Tide1029.com for Tennessee-Alabama. Last game on the schedule, a team that LSU beat last week, and that is the Auburn Tigers. They're looking for revenge, and they're looking for revenge against a team that got beat by another team in Alabama, and that is the Arkansas Razorbacks, losing to Alabama 41-9 last week. So does Auburn get some retribution here when they travel to Arkansas this week?
Now, when you talk about sports, matchups are everything. And in this series, Gus Malzahn's had a lot of success against Arkansas, losing only once in overtime, the last time Auburn made the trip up to Northwest Arkansas to Fayetteville. As fifth season coming in, Auburn's won 3 out of the last 4 over Arkansas, but I liked what I saw out of Cole Kelly even in the loss to Alabama last week. So I think with what happened in Baton Rouge, there might be some negative carryover for Auburn, especially early on, having to go on the road to a place you have to want to get to if you're traveling up to Northwest Arkansas to the campus at the University of Arkansas. But I think once again in this game, I think Arkansas is going to be competitive. I think the defense, though, for Arkansas is the weakness for both teams in this matchup. And for that reason, I like the running game for Auburn, whether it's Camp Petway, Kerryon Johnson, whomever's in that backfield, to be able to run through that front 7 for Arkansas. And so I like Auburn to get about a 10-point win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Auburn Tigers in this one. I did like the performance by Kelly last week against Alabama, and that's a tough road game that you got to play your first game of college football against the Alabama Crimson Tide at home during their homecoming. So that's definitely a tough situation for a freshman quarterback, and now he's going to be at home, and he's going to be playing up against his fans, but playing up against a tough Auburn team, and I think this defense is going to be attacking Kelly similar to when the Alabama Crimson Tide attacked him in this game. I'm going to go with the Auburn Tigers winning this one in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So that does it for our SEC predictions for Week 8. I'm Marquis Munson. Make sure you head on over to Tide1029.com for all our staff predictions for Tennessee and Alabama. Make sure you go check that out from myself, James, and all the entire staff. Make sure you check out their staff predictions as well. Also, make sure you download that Tide 1029 app in the App Store and Google Play as well. Make sure you download that Tide 1029 app for 12 hours of live local content from the Alabama Crimson Tide. For Marquis Munson, James Hardy with us, been behind the scenes. Thank you guys for tuning in to Week 8 of the SEC predictions. See you later.